All right, welcome. Sunday Speedrunner Spotlight. As my camera fumbles the bag at the very start. Nice. All right, there we go.
As can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I had this. I was doing something right before this, so I had to quickly kind of scramble all my stuff together. So we try our best out here, but it's not
Understandable,
perfect.
understandable.
But anyway, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Had my early morning with work and I've been chilling between shifts, so I
Perfect
get
time to
your
be interviewed,
invitation
right?
to join in. Yeah, no, perfect time. And an evening shift in a couple hours, so hopefully this goes smoothly and then I'll probably have to speed run my way over to work. And hopefully it's just
That's the
not
life.
rough.
Yeah. Ugh. Working on Sunday, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is what it is. Two jobs will do it to you.
Mm. Yeah. So anyway, speed running.
Indeed.
That's a more pleasant topic than work.
Absolutely. And
So
speedrunning is quite a fun thing that I just happen to enjoy doing and watching as well.
yeah, me too. No, something about it just keeps bringing you back in. Yeah, exactly. So, when did you start speed running?
So I probably started speedrunning, I want to say probably 2011, 2012. Got a little inspiration to start streaming, seeing marathons actually, with the speed gamers and probably like the beginnings of GDQ. And I was like, I want to do something like that. I want to be able to like be on the shows and be able to show off my skill with games, especially like around the Metroid series, as my namesake entails.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had gotten a my first introduction to speedrunning. Actually, I was probably about like 9 or 10 years old in like the mid late 2000s. So when I got into Metroid Fusion, which was my first game, my best friend Damani and I, we used to kind of compete with each other a little bit. He was the first one to get 100% in the game for item completion. I was the first one to be able to beat the game in under 2 hours in game time. But between the two of us, we weren't able to get that 100% in under 2 hours to get that best ending. And so, me, having access to the internet as a kid, I started searching, oh, how do we beat, you know, Metroid Fusion in 100% in under 2 hours? And I came across Speed Demos Archive.
Hmm.
And I started kind of watching runs and also looking at other games that I had interest in, and seeing even back then like what people were doing with, say, Zelda Ocarina of Time. It was blowing my mind that people
Yeah.
were able to do this, and this was like confirmed, not cheating, stuff like that. And I'm like, oh wow, okay, I would love to learn to do stuff like that. Um, Eventually got into streaming myself. I was like on this cruddy little laptop, pointing, like, at first it was like I had bought a oh god, it was like this like cheapo like video capture card, and I was using that for the video capture and I couldn't get sound out of it, so I had this old webcam sitting on top of my TV. So that was how I was able to get like my video feed and my game audio at the same time. It was like
Perfect.
the goofiest little setup. And I started like helping out with community stuff, with the speed gamers. Like there was a community marathon where I tried to do a whole playthrough of Metroid Prime 2 Echoes on stream. Fortunately, we had like issues with the raising donations, but I got through that game in like a good 5 or 6 hours without really knowing any speed tech. And then I found the Metroid Zero Mission community and got really into running Metroid Zero Mission. So I would say Zero Mission was probably my first like actual speed game, which also happened to be one of my favorite Metroid games in general. I just really enjoyed like the mechanics of how it played, how tight it felt, and I just kind of fell down the rabbit hole from there.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But yeah, something that's always been cool about the Metroid games. I'm not too familiar with them, but I know even like the very first one on the NES had a thing where the faster you beat it, like the you get different endings for it. And that's like super early kind of speed running.
Oh
They
yeah,
kind
no,
of knew it.
the Metroid games were really great for like encouraging you to speedrun without like outright saying, yeah, you're speedrunning. It was just
Hmm.
like, hey, the faster that you can do it or the higher your item completion, the cooler the ending that you got, ultimately cultivating in the reveal that, oh yeah, Samus is a girl the entire time or a woman. And I'm sure for like the people playing the original Metroid, it was mind blowing. I didn't get introduced to Metroid um until Metroid Fusion came out because the only console that I had growing up was a Nintendo 64. So my introduction to Metroid was actually more through Super Smash Brothers 64 because we didn't have a Metroid game on 64, unfortunately. Otherwise, I probably would have picked up on it a lot sooner. My previously mentioned best friend Tamani picked up Metroid Fusion when it came out, and he would let me play it on his Game Boy Advance, and I got hooked. So when I finally got a Game Boy Advance on my own, and my family was like, "Oh, you got to get a game with it. What do you want?" I immediately was like, "Metroid Fusion. I want that." So
Easy
spent
decisions.
exactly spent many an hour playing Metroid Fusion, and then Zero Mission became a thing, and I got into that, and I would just play it so much. Um, and I used to think that like I was so impressive, like being able to get that like sub 2 hour run, and then I did on Zero Mission eventually once get a 100% in under 2 hours, but that was on Zero Mission. I still hadn't done it in Fusion, but I got it in Zero Mission when I was a kid. And then started learning about like some of the sequence breaks and being able to do hell runs. Like some of the sequence breaks I figured out on my own. It's like, oh, I could do this or this, and I used to think I was like so impressive having like a 50-minute in-game time. I would beat the game in like a little over an hour, and then I find out the speedrunning community's got it down to like 20 odd minutes IGT, and I'm sitting there like, how?
Yep.
So I get into the community, start looking at runs, and started learning even more. And even like now, Zero Mission, I still consider my main speed game, and I've made many improvements in my time. In like the god 10 years odd that I've probably been doing speedrunning now.
I
So
mean, a decade of speedrunning is a lengthy history in the speedrunning
absolutely.
community for sure.
Oh,
Obviously, I
absolutely.
know people that have been doing it for 2 decades, but you don't really hear like more than that. I don't think.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of interesting. So like I'm actually going back on my like speedrun.com times, and the earliest like submitted run that I had on here for Zero Mission for any percent normal was the category that I mainly run. My earliest submission like 9 years ago was like 57 minutes and 1 second. And since then, my last submitted run was about a year ago. My current standing on the leaderboards is a 41-minute, 21-second run. And I think I have beaten that PB since, just haven't gotten around to submitting the run. But it's definitely been like big improvements
Yeah,
since
it's
then.
a
And I
lot.
still feel like there's more that I can do on it, provided I can keep at it and my hands can cooperate with me.
Yeah, hands are the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, how fast did you say the like top times are for that?
So the top times currently, my leaderboard time is 28th, and the top time is held by C Scotty W
Oh yeah.
with a 36:52 RTA.
Yeah.
and the IGT is 24 minutes 58 seconds. So like there's still little ways that I can go.
Yeah, okay. That was the confusion. There's the in-game time and then the RTA for
Yeah,
like
so
almost every Metroid game.
yeah, so the well, the in-game time is a little wonky.
Hmm.
It usually runs when you're in direct control of Samus, and it stops when you pause the game, stuff like that. And people have found that there are ways to manipulate that in-game time with just like rapid pausing. And there's some kind of jank with how that works for Metroid Zero Mission. So we ended up prioritizing RTA for Metroid Zero Mission runs, and then I believe the Fusion community also, probably a few years ago, also made the switch over to RTA over in-game time, mainly because the in-game time for Fusion counted only hours and minutes and not seconds and stuff. So we always had like these huge ties for the world record on in-game time for Fusion.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. Obviously, Super Metroid's the big one, and they had a
Oh, yeah.
whole IGT kind of thing. Although I think they've been using RTA forever now, but it has that same
Yeah,
kind of thing, and also the same kind of thing where you can kind of get a better time because of certain things. So.
exactly. Usually with like the GBA Metroids, running the Japanese version is faster because there is still like there is text in both of those, and the Japanese version just has less text over English. So for Fusion, it'll save minutes just playing on the Japanese version over English.
Minutes. Wow.
Whereas Zero Mission, yeah. So with Fusion, the Adam text every time you have to stop and talk to Adam, it's like whole rows of text that you have to kind of mash through. For Zero Mission, it's thankfully not as much, but playing on the Japanese version still saves at least a few seconds over English on any percent. Um, and I think a little bit more with 100% because you're having to pick up more major items in 100% than in any percent.
Yeah, that's what I'm used to hearing. Like the Japanese version saves a few seconds, so like a minute. That's significant for the other game.
Yep. No, there's the kind of linear-ish fashion of Metroid Fusion requires you to have to stop in navigation rooms and talk to Adam after every so often for him to like give you your next mission, basically your next objective. So because it's several lines of text as you're going through that, yeah, just having Japanese and having less of that text just saves so much time over the course of the run that it's now preferred to run on the Japanese version. Thankfully, we recently allowed the BizHawk emulator under certain settings for RTA runs, so running the Japanese version is more accessible than it used to be instead of having to like import a cartridge, even though Game Boy Advance games are region free.
No, well, that's good.
It is still kind of expensive to import Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission cartridges, especially in 2024.
I can imagine. I'm not entirely sure how popular the GBA was, but yeah, I can just assume that importing anything for like a
So
handheld would be more of a pain.
it's surprisingly, at least when I imported my Zero Mission copy, it wasn't too bad. Super Metroid, I think,
Oh,
was slightly cheaper to get a Japanese copy than a US copy. But they're
really?
both like rather expensive nowadays too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course, the graph just has been going up forever now, so
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, I don't bother with buying retro stuff anymore. I just get my EverDrives and whatnot because the market's just
Yeah,
quickly getting more and more out of the price range.
I've picked up a good few EverDrives myself, including one for GBA. I actually do my Metroid Fusion runs on EverDrive because the community has allowed it. And then we recently, about a year ago, got Metroid Fusion on Nintendo Switch Online. And
Hmm.
there's been some controversy-ish with the NSO version because the NSO version runs at a flat 60 frames per second, whereas the actual GBA hardware is like 59.7 something. and there was like, I think they originally said it that you could not submit Nintendo Switch Online for RTA runs, which kind of blew up at first because they just didn't do the proper research at first. And then some people were starting to do the research, and I think now they've gone to you can submit NSO runs for RTA until you reach a certain threshold, and then after that, they're not accepting it, which I'm still kind of on. But I also haven't like done a run on NSO in a while, so
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
that's
it's a rare
specifically
thing
for
where you
Fusion.
save time with a like emulated, official emulated version. Because I'm so used to NES games, and the NES runs a little faster than 60, so any like official emulated version is slower. So
I
it's
believe
it's
that
weird
was the
hearing the
same
other way
with
around.
I believe that was the same with Super Nintendo as well, correct?
Yeah, I think the Super Nintendo's the same frame rate as the NES.
Yeah, because I know I had recently picked up a analog Super NT, and people were saying that like, yeah, Super Nintendo actually runs faster than the analog.
Hmm.
And I was debating on trying to do runs on the analog, but now I'm like, I guess I'll just stick with the Super Nintendo and the Retro Tank then if I want to do some speed runs on it.
Yeah, I've always just stuck to the original hardware.
I
Just
usually
just
like,
easier for me, I guess.
yeah, I also usually prefer original hardware. Unless I'm playing like certain randomizers where playing on the original hardware isn't quite as easy to do.
Yeah, that makes
That
sense.
being said, I still have yet to try out the Metroid Dread randomizer, and that I would have to run on emulator for now.
Mm.
We'll see if I can change that in the future.
Uh, so Metroid Dread, so there would have to be like a Switch
Yeah, that would
kind of
be
thing.
running on Switch. You would either need a modded Switch to run it or run it on Ryujinx.
I see. Yeah, I know. Switch emulation right now is kind of a hot topic. So.
Yeah, normally I would not emulate a still active console like the
Hmm.
Switch, even though the Switch has been around for 7 years. Like I have a launch day Switch, and I do still actively play it along with like a Steam Deck and older hardware like my Game Boy stuff like that and DS. But in terms of like wanting to play a randomizer for a game, I'm a little bit more okay with it. But
Hmm.
yeah, for like a modern console, I just don't really feel a need to emulate it so much, especially since I just have it available like right here, no problem.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar with that. I've always been a little iffy on personally
Mhm.
doing that. Emulation less so, but I know I'm scared to like hack my Switch because banning and all that.
Right.
Even though
No,
I'm
like
told time and time again it's not a problem, but I don't know. My
so
brain.
in the theory, if I wanted to mod mine, I probably would have bought a separate like Switch OLED
Yeah,
and
that's
then moved
also
all of my legitimate stuff from my current Switch to the OLED just to make sure that hey, I can still play like my legitimate stuff and be able to play online with stuff and then mod the old Switch
hmm.
and do randomizers and stuff like that on it. But I don't know. I just never got too big into like wanting to emulate Switch really
Yeah.
or mess with that stuff other than like trying out like retro emulators on it because I did slightly get into retro achievements again for a little bit, which have been kind of fun, but at the same time, like I wish I could do stuff like this on an actual console,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to Nintendo 64 games, because Nintendo 64, even to this day, is still difficult to emulate accurately.
Oh yeah.
For whatever reason, with the documentation, how the console works, it's just been dang near impossible to get perfectly accurate emulation, even though we've had it for NES, we've had it for Super Nintendo. I want to say like Dolphin's gotten pretty close with GameCube and Wii at that, or maybe they're just, I think actually they're not looking for accuracy, but just for having features. But even then, like Dolphin has become um viable even for speed running now. Like shoot, we're using the Dolphin and like Nintendo on Wii for Metroid Prime Randomizer tournaments, which I just recently entered a Metroid Prime Randomizer beginner tournament with mentors or advanced players acting as mentors to the beginner players. But the fact that we can use these for these tournaments is it shows like how far emulation has come, and yet we still haven't gotten anything quite accurate for Nintendo 64.
Yeah, that's always been weird. I don't know. I don't know what it is. uh, my brain isn't smart enough for that kind of stuff. So I
I
I
don't know
have the
either. I
console,
just
so I'm happy with that. But yeah, I've
yeah,
always been mad that like I can't play like Mario 64 hacks on it because they're made with emulation in mind, and the emulators aren't the same. So it's like it
right.
just
I mean,
doesn't work.
there are a few that will work on hardware if you have an EverDrive 64,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, but yeah, not all of them are playable on console, and emulators are kind of a requirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always been unique, that
Oh
console
yeah.
with all of that. So I understand the kind of displeasure with having to deal with it, I guess.
Right. That being said, there's also been some interesting stuff that can be done with emulation. There's a GoldenEye multiplayer community around that likes to use emulation and a 60 frame per second patch for GoldenEye 007.
Hmm.
So you can play people in GoldenEye online, like the old split screen, but at 60 frames per second. And they've managed to actually fix the game to where, like, your weapons fire at the correct rate, even though the frame rate is probably about tripled from
Hmm.
what it originally was. It's quite interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's very cool. Because yeah, I know how bad the frame rates get, especially when you're getting four-player kind of stuff.
Yeah, I still want to try to get some either some 4-player online going on the Switch version or something just among friends just to see how that works, but I digress. It's not as much for speedrunning. Um But even then, I think like the GoldenEye speedrunners probably would still prefer to stick to like actual console. Maybe some of the other versions for like a slightly more solid frame rate. I'm not sure what that community has decided because I've not really been as big of a part of it.
Yeah, I
Mainly
don't
for
know anything about it.
yeah, mainly for speedrunning. I've been more active around the Metroid community and some of the Mega Man community. I used to run Mega Man 9 for a while,
Oh,
and I'm debating on if I still want to push my time down on that a little bit more. But as it is, I'm thinking of focusing more on Metroid series. Maybe seeing if I can get some other people to try out speedrunning Windjammers because I would love to have some more competition in Windjammer speedrunning.
what's Windjammers? I've never heard of it.
So Windjammers is a Neo Geo arcade game that
Nope.
recently, about a few years ago, got ports to Switch and PlayStation 4.
Hmm.
And it has an arcade mode where you just go through every opponent. And I originally had wanted to showcase Windjammers in a marathon as like a versus mode showcase showing like the skill of players, but I also was like wanted to showcase what the game was like, and I decided to do like an arcade mode as a run as a speed run, just to kind of set like a base time for a showcase. And on my first run, I ended up taking the world record,
Well,
and I uploaded it to SRC and all that, and kind of stuck with it. I think someone else ended up taking it, and I took the record back, and I've held it since then and have made improvements on it as well. But in terms of like what the arcade game entails, think of it as a combination of air hockey meets ultimate frisbee and just a touch of fighting games. So like if you do like your like Hadoken input when you go to throw the disc, your character will curve it around. So
sure.
it's yeah, it's kind of wild. So the object is, get the disc past your opponent and into like the goalposts that are behind him. And there's like a 3-point goal, a 5-point goal. So obviously you want to be like scoring as many 5 points, and it's first to 12 wins the round, 2 out of 3 rounds wins the set, and you just basically blaze through the arcade mode on whatever difficulty that you picked as quick as you can.
Hmm. Sounds incredibly unique, at least.
It's definitely unique as a speed game and as a competitive game as well. There is a like competitive tournament community around it, which I ended up making friends with like the ninth best Windjammers player in the United States, just from Windjammers and also playing a lot of multi-world randomizers with them. So shout outs to Jeff Fader Jr., the one of the nastiest Klaus Vessel players in Windjammers I've ever played against.
Okay. I'm surprised they have 9 people playing now. I don't know anything about it.
They've got a good few people in the States, and the French community tends to dominate in competitive.
Hmm. Interesting.
So yeah, there's a small little community for Windjammers that I very much enjoy hanging out with them when I can.
Yeah. Now, there's a community for everything, so I shouldn't be too surprised.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, just look at us with speedrunning. There's so many like super minuscule games, but they still have some competition in some fashion, usually.
Oh, absolutely, and they will get into marathons when they try.
Yep. Well, speaking of marathons, I guess, obviously we've met at a GDQ, but how many like kind of speedrunning events have you either been to or did a run for or whatnot?
So I've done some runs for a few smaller events. I've done a couple runs at Buckeye Speed Bash up in Ohio. I did a few online only events. I've done Fast Pace for Pride, or yeah, sorry, Power Up with Pride. I've done Handheld Heroes a couple times. I've done Fast Pace for Headspace. Basically like a bunch of these like smaller marathons. I did do MagFest a
Hmm.
couple times, although I haven't been able to make it out to MagFest as of recent. But first time I did MagFest, they kind of shoehorned me in with Mega Man 9 while I was still early in running the game, and ended up having one of the I want to say, oh shoot, no, he did translation. I ended up having Matt Papa from Inticreates on the couch with me for Mega Man 9. Unfortunately, they were really pressed for time, so they had to cut my run short, even though at the time, I'm pretty sure I was on PB pace by the time I was done with 8 Robot Masters, but we had to cut the run early. I did
Wow.
finally get to rematch it the next year at MagFest, completed the run, and also did a Metroid Fusion and Metroid Zero Mission run in that same marathon. And then I did finally get my first GDQ run at Summer Games Done Quick 2023 when Elrock and I did the X-Men Arcade 1 credit clear run.
Hmm.
And we had the bid war to pick my character between Nightcrawler and Colossus. The bid war itself raised about $9,000, and Colossus won by about $100.
So very
So
close.
yep. So now I got to bring the Magfest meme of the Colossus roar to GDQ, and the crowd was eating it up the entire time. So, and it had already been like a dream of mine to run at GDQ, so being able to do that was like an absolute dream come true. And GDQ has had a special place in my heart as well as a thyroid cancer survivor of 15 years and counting now. So
Oh, look at that.
yeah, no, GDQ has been important to me. So like finally getting to fulfill that dream of running on the GDQ stage has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm hoping that I can return again sometime soon.
Yeah, that's really cool because you said you've been watching them for well over a decade at least. So
Oh yeah,
you were an early watcher then, if it was like, I
back when they
think
were
they
on
were
the
still.
couch in Michael Yama's family, I think.
Yeah, trying to back when it was still like only on Speed Demos Archive, SDA is
I
what I
think
was
that
trying
was
to
it.
think of. Yeah.
And then it eventually moved over to Twitch to their own channel.
Hmm. and now it's the juggernaut it is.
Indeed, which has been quite a time to get to like go attend, and we have these bigger productions now. It's very cool to see it have like grown into what it is over the years.
Yeah, when I joined the speedrunning community, it kind of was already where it is today. So I don't know what like the classic era truly was like, but from what I've seen, it's a different experience for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I didn't really get to start attending GDQ in person until probably about 2015, 2016. Because so I'm, native to like Central Virginia. So when I found out that it was being held up in Dulles, I was like, oh, that's actually really close to me. This is something that I could attend. And I remember the first time I was going, I wasn't driving then. So my friend Keith the Geek and I, we hitched a ride with one of my coworkers from my morning job who just happened to be going in that direction anyway, and they dropped us off at the event. We were staying with my friend Radioactive Rat, who happened to get Lester the Unlikely in that year. So we were staying with her and a couple other runners, and we stayed the entire week. I was like on the back couch for the Lester the Unlikely run. It was absolutely fantastic. And we ended up catching a bus back to Richmond by the end. So it was quite the time.
Hmm.
Then started submitting myself. I want to say 2016 it might have been. I got Metroid Zero Mission any percent normal in as a backup, and Sam the Digital was supposed to run 100%, and Sam unfortunately had to drop out. But instead of putting my any percent run in to replace it, they put in Lack Attack Zelda 1 run right in the middle of the Metroid block. And I
Hmm.
will admit, I was just a wee bit salty over that, but I still had a fantastic time. So I was just like, you know what? It is what it is. They
Yeah.
had their reasons for making that decision, and probably I would not have performed as well as I probably would have nowadays
Hmm.
on that zero mission run, because we still had the one of the big skips that saves a couple minutes in the run, the acid worm skip. It's not particularly hard, but in the early days of my running, it was the bane of my existence. So I probably would have been a little too nervous on stage to be able to hit that first try or maybe second.
Hmm. It's really funny to just have Zelda in the middle of a Metroid block.
Yeah, it was it was very interesting, but the run was still fun and it worked out. So honestly, again, it's probably for the better.
Yeah. Um, what a year did you say this was?
I believe that was 2016.
Okay.
So still been trying to be able to get on stage with Metroid Zero Mission, but I think there are still some other improvements that I'm going to need to make before I'm GDQ worthy. But it'll happen. We haven't had the GBA droids show up in a few years, so who knows? Maybe soon, or maybe I'll get to a point where I can give C Scotty W a run for his money, and we can get it in as a race.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Um, yeah, I'm not too familiar with the Metroid games. I've seen plenty of Super, and I know a lot of people that run the NES game, but especially I'm not familiar with the GBA games because those are like probably the most niche in the series, other than obviously the second game because Game Boy. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They're it's interesting. Like Metroid Fusion does have its bit of popularity, whereas Zero Mission not so much. Even I noticed that like I'll get more people dropping into my chat if I'm running Metroid Fusion than if I'm running Zero Mission.
Hmm.
Which you would think like with Zero Mission being my prime game, and I'm like a semi, I say semi high level runner because I'm sitting at like 28th on the leaderboard, but you'd think as like a fairly decent runner of Zero Mission, I'd have more people dropping in for my Metroid Zero Mission runs than my Metroid Fusion runs, but does seem to be the opposite, that more people will pop in for Fusion because it seems to be a little bit more popular. And then Super Metroid is just
It's
the
just that.
like de facto Metroid speed game, which I
Yep.
do plan to sit down and learn at some point and put a time on. I would like to eventually get a time on every Metroid leaderboard, and that's probably going to include some of the more unpopular games. We don't have to talk about those right now, but I do want to sit down and try to learn them and get a time in at some point.
Now, when you say that, do you mean like every Metroid game, like 2D, 3D, everything?
The 2D, yep, the 2D ones, like all the mainline ones. Get the Prime series as well, probably Prime Hunters. Don't know about Federation Force. That's one of the ones that we don't like to talk about, but eventually, yes.
And then there's some pinball game too.
Yeah, that was that was definitely an interesting one to play through. When Metroid Dread got announced, I decided I was going to marathon through the entire Metroid series from
Mhm.
NES Metroid all the way up through oh god, what was that most recent one? I mean, I had to do other. I forget if I did them in either storyline order or if I did them in release date order. Yeah, no, so I think I did them in release date order. So at the time, it would have been Federation Force and Samus Returns. I think Samus Returns might have been like the last one that I finished off with. And that was like over multiple days of streaming.
I
But
should hope so.
oh yeah, no, I unless I was that good at speedrunning them all, I don't think I would have been able to do them all in a day.
No.
Sooner or later though. And then when Metroid Fusion got announced for NSO and it released, I did do a Metroid 1 through 5 run, which was NES Metroid, Metroid 2 Return of Samus, Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, and then Metroid Dread. I did that in one big marathon stream, and I played all 5 games on Nintendo Switch because I wanted to showcase, hey, all 5 of your mainline Metroid games are on Switch, and you can speedrun them if you want to.
Wow, they all are. I didn't think of that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I guess I didn't know that the Game Boy game was on there, but
yeah,
why wouldn't it be?
it's on NSO along with which I still don't get why we got Super Mario Land 2 but not Super Mario Land 1. I still don't
Well,
understand why we don't have both yet.
Mario Land 1 is a video game, one of the video games of
It's
all time.
it is one of the video games of all time. And I think if it wasn't Super Mario 64, Mario Land was definitely one of the first Mario games I actually managed to beat. So
Hmm,
that was
really?
yeah, that was borrowing my cousin's Game Boy because he had it, and I was just out on a trip and I was just playing the heck out of it. And I think I was the first one out of my cousins to actually beat Super Mario Land and reach the end. And I just felt like absolutely proud of myself that I managed to beat it. Um,
That game is definitely jank, so not the easiest
it's it's definitely
endeavor.
jank. I may have tried to learn a speed run of it, and then after dying so many times, just in 1-1 because I'm trying to go too fast. Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's probably not going to work for me.
Plus, that game has a lot of RNG with, well, not a lot, but like at the end of every world, you have to do one of those bonus games, and you can just
Yeah,
reset if you get the wrong thing. I don't know.
yeah,
It's
I
weird.
can't imagine that's particularly fun if you're trying to go for like record pace on it.
Hmm.
Mario Land 2, I guess, would be a little bit more fun as a speed run.
Yes, I have ran Mario Land 2. I tried it out a little bit. It's fun. Um,
I've raced it once back on my early SRL days. That was a time when people would just be like racing Smash 64 like all the time. It was kind of
Smash
wild.
64.
Yeah, they would race like the one player mode. It was
Interesting.
it was quite a time. I think actually like Speedrun Live eventually like banned that as a race category after a while because people were just doing it so much.
Hmm. Yeah, I missed out on kind of the SRL era of stuff. Um, But you
It
were
was
right in the middle
it
of
was
it.
an interesting time. Yeah, I was right in the middle of it when it was starting to get big, and I was always like wanting to be shown on the SRL front page because that was like the big thing where like people would find you doing
Mhm.
speedruns was on Speedruns Live. And I think nowadays it might have kind of fallen out in favor of like speedrun.com and just how Twitch works in general now.
Yeah, like we're definitely past the kind of servers they use. I'm not. I can't think of like the actual term, but yeah, you know what I mean. The way they have it
Right,
set up.
right. You
Um,
just find like speedrun tags and stuff, or you'll just find runners, like we
mhm,
have runners just showing up on like front page and stuff like that.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's
I guess I
it's
never thought
definitely
of it
become bigger.
as a discoverability kind of thing. Like,
Right.
so because yeah, if you like had an account, um, you would just show up on there, right? And you would have to even
Um
they would even say put like no SRL if you're not speedrunning in your title
Yeah,
because
yeah, that
people
was
upset.
that was a whole thing. So it was like if you had an account and you had done X number of like races or speedrunning streams, you could show up on the front page. But yeah, there was a time where if we were doing like casual runs, we had to put that like hyphen no SRL
Hmm.
in our title so that the our stuff wouldn't show up on the SRL front page and we wouldn't get in trouble. That was also back in the day when I started heavily running Zelda Ocarina of Time. I used to run this is dating myself a little bit. I used to run the no reverse bottle adventure and wrong warp category back when it was called that. They changed the name of it to no item manipulation and wrong warp because they found like a whole like get item manipulation glitch. That was also back when I was actively running the Ganondorf any percent route where you would just warp from the Deku Tree or do a wrong warp from the Deku Tree to Ganon and fight Ganon as a child. And I remember when they found get item manipulation, I was just like, I'm done. There's no way I'm going to be able to keep up with this category at the rate that it's going. So I kind of dropped running Ocarina of Time for a while, but I still do randomizers for it nowadays. So
That game confuses me. Like I'm
it's
not familiar with it. I've never played it. I know, but so I've never really had the drive to really watch the speed runs of it, even though I know it's like one of the like
one of the
Mount
speed runs
Rushmore
of all
games.
time.
Yeah,
Like,
like actually one of the speed runs of all time, not just the meme.
right. It's like
There's so much going on in that game, and
Ocarina of Time,
I
Super
can't
Metroid,
comprehend
Mario
it.
64.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot to it, but like yeah, if we were to like like if I were to make that Mount Rushmore of like speed games, it probably would have been like Ocarina of Time, Super Metroid. I don't know, would you throw Mario 1 or Mario 64 because they're both like way up there in terms of like
Mario 64 is easily more popular. It's
big
just
popular
so
speed
easily more
games.
popular than that.
But even then, we still have that like you will impress a lot of people by being like, yeah, people have beaten Super Mario Brothers 1 in like well under 5 minutes, and they're like, what?
And
And
it's
you'll
still
just
just
be
right
like,
under five
yeah, just
minutes.
like you can just whip up the video and just show it to them right then and there, and they'll be like, how?
Or if I'm there, I can just do it in front of their eyes.
Right?
That's a
Oh
shout
my
out to
goodness.
the. You probably saw the Nest block that they had set up.
I
That
did
is.
see the Nest block at AGDQ. I was tempted to participate in one, but I was like, well, there aren't many like NES games that I run in particular. Like I've done one like all bosses Metroid 1 run, but I hadn't done that since I did the marathon on Nintendo Switch Online, and then I've like run a little bit of Mega Man 2
Mm.
like zipless ages ago. I've tried doing that once or twice. Otherwise maybe like Mega Man 6, but yeah, there aren't really that many like NES games that I've actually tried to like actively speed run.
Mm.
And I do want to fix that sooner or later, but it's going to take some time to sit down and learn it.
Yeah, the joke I was trying to make was I got sub 5 in that marathon.
Oh,
But
well, there you go.
yeah. I've
I can't.
actually been interested. You said Mega Man 2. I've kind of dabbled in it a bit. I've thought
It's
of it.
it's definitely an interesting speed game, especially when you start getting zips involved. And I have not learned any of them. I can do like one little baby zip in Mega Man 1, and that's about it.
I can do a few in 2, but that's all I can do. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Absolutely.
But
So, like, I guess if I were to want to run Mega Man 2, it would probably be zipless. Of course, I'd have to get used to running on the Japanese version where the US difficult mode, it just is the standard. There is no like difficulty selection. And I had just been so used to playing the game on like normal. I can still beat it on difficult. Like, that's not an issue, but it's just having to get used to the mechanics differences and stuff between the two modes.
hmm yeah, I mean, it is a big change for sure. Like
Oh,
those
absolutely.
enemies don't die in difficult mode.
Right. And then Mega Man 6 has their slightly weird slide mechanics where you can't just jump out of a slide. You actually have to like cancel the slide before you can jump. So you either have to double tap A to be able to get your jump, or you have to like you start your slide and then press it immediately in the opposite direction and then jump to be able to do your jumps. So being able to optimize that is a lot harder. Even though Mega Man 6 is one of my favorite like NES Mega Man games, I played the ever loving heck out of it. I just haven't really learned the speed run for it and
Well,
all the tech that would come with it.
I just learned something new. I didn't know they changed how the slide works, like jumping out of it for 6.
Specifically in Mega Man 6, all of the other Mega Man games, you can jump straight out of a slide. 7, you could do it. 8, you could do it. I don't know why they had changed it for 6, but just specifically that game.
Interesting.
3, 4, and 5 all work to the same.
hmm Just what a random change. I don't know.
Right?
Because they seem so not copy paste, but you know what I mean. Like,
Right. You would think that like, okay, all the mechanics are like similar
mm,
in a way. I did pick up Mega Man 7 once for a 12-hour challenge as a joke and ended up actually enjoying the run, so I stuck with it for a little bit and I was running that on like Wii U Virtual Console. I've since picked up a Japanese Mega Man 7 cartridge, but I have yet to actually sit down and do a run on it. So
well,
perhaps might be something to look into over the course of the year.
yeah. I mean, plenty of time, plenty of games.
Oh yeah. But at the same time, I do kind of want to focus on like I do eventually want to focus on improving my Metroid Zero Mission to get it a little bit more GDQ ready and probably work on some other stuff too. That and just I work 2 jobs, so like I've only got like 2 days off a week from both. So it's just a matter of being able to find the time really to be able to work on speed games and new stuff. That being said, I did a while back on Twitter hear mention of someone coming up with a one more PB challenge where you basically take all your speed games and try to set a new PB in them over the
Hmm.
course of a year. And I was thinking, that might also be something worth
I haven't
trying
heard of
out. I could,
this. What?
yeah, I could use that as like the motivator to get myself back into like speedrunning games that I haven't run in a long time.
One more PB challenge. I'm just surprised I haven't heard of this. This sounds quite interesting.
I just remember seeing it in passing as I was scrolling. I was like, that actually sounds like a fun idea.
Hmm.
And then I never got around to doing it.
I mean, that's how it goes. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of things I put on the back burner and they burnt to a crisp at this point, but
It doesn't help that I've also been getting sucked into a gacha game, so
oh, well,
gotta
I can't.
gotta do daily stuff in that like almost every day.
Yeah, I'm
But
glad
at
I've
the
never
same
been addicted to something like that yet.
Yeah,
I'm staying
Genshin
away.
Impact is one heck of a drug, but it
Mm,
does help that I do play it with friends, so it's like a way for me to be able to hang out with some of my friends when we're able to do co-op stuff and we have the time.
mhm.
I've also gotten into playing Pokemon Heart Gold, but on my phone through an emulator because I found out that this emulator also emulates the Wi-Fi connection, and there's a homebrew Wi-Fi connection. So I got a friend of mine and I playing through Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and we're literally just battling each other over Wi-Fi connection from our phones.
Huh.
So yeah, sorry,
Fascinating.
we are.
Technology is amazing.
It's fantastic at times. So yeah, we're doing a playthrough of Heart Gold and Soul Silver where we will battle each other after every gym leader that we beat in the game. So and um, we just recently set a level cap rule as a friendly thing. So I said we just finished Whitney, which was the third gym, and our level cap was at 20 for that. So we're gonna battle. After that, we'll move on to the next gym, and our level cap will bump up to level 25. And we just kind of work our way through that. So like our level cap will increase after each battle, and right now we're sitting at a record of 1-1. So I've won once, and she has won once. So, and of
All
course,
tied up.
her win was because her team was like way higher level than my own after we finished our second gym. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna set a rule. We're gonna have a level cap, and that should hopefully make things a little bit more fair.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
should
That
be a fun
that game
time.
was my first Pokemon game. I've never
Oh
been
wow.
like too into it, but I have really good fond memories of that one specifically. So
So I was into Pokemon, but never like as a kid, especially around like Red and Blue, Gold and Silver, Ruby and Sapphire. Like I was really into it around those times, and then I think around when the DS generations were coming out, I was falling out of it. And I mean, when those were coming out, I was like starting high school, middle high school. So and family was also like ruining my ability to enjoy like the show and stuff, which I really love the show, but it became hard to watch with family around constantly making fun of it. So I missed out on a lot of Gen 4 and Gen 5 till I came back into Pokemon when X and Y came out on the 3DS. So that was like kind of my return to Pokemon. So being able to play these has been really helpful with like being able to reconnect with the game series, especially around the DS era, and then having the homebrew Wi-Fi connection with still all the same functions, more or less, that the original Wi-Fi connection had, allowed me to kind of reconnect with that. It's also been really great for being able to play Metroid Prime Hunters online with people again because I missed out on the multiplayer when the game was big. And now that we've got this homebrew connection and I finally got a copy of the game myself, I've been able to like find people to play with and actually do the multiplayer, which I missed out on.
well, that's all cool. But yeah,
It's been fantastic.
so this is something for the DS then, the like homebrew Wi-Fi.
Uh, yeah. It's called Wii MMFi, and it's
Oh, it's that. Okay,
supposedly yeah. So it works
I have
for
that for the
both.
Wii. Yeah.
Yeah, for Wii and DS stuff.
Hmm. Okay.
And the cool thing is, especially on the DS end, is that it will work with actual hardware and with the Melon DS emulator.
Mm. Well, I only have the
So
3DS, which there's a DS inside of that, so I don't know how that
right.
works,
So
but
well, it would actually work with the DS with the DS part in the 3DS.
all right.
Basically,
I need
you're
to
just
look into
setting
this.
a specific DNS, um, like a specific DNS address that it'll like redirect itself to be able to do the homebrew stuff.
Okay.
Um, that being said, when I've had to do it because the DS doesn't support, the WPA security, like the modern security, I've either had to set up a guest network with my router with like no security, it only by DS connecting to it, or use my cell phone as a hotspot.
Interesting. Okay.
It works surprisingly well.
Hmm. I'll definitely have to look into this because there's some like content in some games that are locked behind like a Wi-Fi thing to get extra content or whatever. So,
I'll
but
give you
yeah.
a heads up, the mystery gifts still work,
Well, how about that?
right?
I remember specifically now that you mentioned that. Yeah, I got Celebi from a GameStop for Heart Gold, like 15 years ago or whatever it would have been.
It's still available too.
That's really wild to think about.
It is. Hang on. I can probably pop it up here on my phone. Give me just a moment.
Wow.
It
Now
should
that's a throwback right there.
yeah, no, it's the actual legitimate. Hang on, you might be hearing my game real quick. Uh
What
Give me
are,
1 second.
uh,
Actually, hang on. I can probably just show it in practice here. Give me 1 second. All right, so uh
Shoutouts to preservation.
right, so we've got our I
Look at that.
can pop it up here. We got our Wi-Fi connection here.
Huge.
If it'll pop up here, and let me just give it just a moment. We'll see if
Searching
it
for a gift. Receive this gift. What's the gift? Oh,
oh wow, shiny Eevee. All right, hang on.
okay. Sure.
This is actually one that I don't think I've gotten, so let me just hit my yes button here, and
There it is.
there it is.
Technology.
It's absolutely fantastic.
That's so cool. I'll need to after stream figure this out and see how I can get it working on mine because I use my 3DS a lot, mainly to play old DS stuff. So I have them all
Yeah,
like
no,
forwarded onto the main menu, and then I have like the custom stuff that you can put all the ROMs on one thing. So
oh yeah, no,
so
it
nice.
and it will all work with that as well. So,
Ah, all fantastic news.
oh, absolutely.
Oh,
So
I
yeah,
got
I
plans
can
for
show
tonight
that.
now.
I'd be happy to help you through it.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll
Um,
I'll definitely research it a bit afterwards. But yeah,
no,
good
it's
information.
pretty darn fun to mess around with. And again, the fact that I'm able to do this and be able to battle my friend out in Texas while we're both playing on our phones is
It's,
it's quite impressive. I've been very much enjoying it, and it's been a good way for her and I to you know keep connected and stuff like that.
hmm. Yeah, that's super cool that that works. Because yeah,
Yeah,
I only knew about the Wii stuff, and even that I haven't like messed with that too much for a while.
yeah.
Um,
I haven't really messed with like the Wii end of it, mainly because I'm like I don't know, most of the Wii games that I would have played weren't I didn't play super much like online, and I'm like, well, I could play Mario Kart Wii, but I've already got Mario Kart 8, and I've got more friends that play Mario Kart 8 right now than Mario Kart Wii, but it is something that could be messed with if we so choose to. And then I don't really play much Super Smash Brothers Brawl anymore, mainly because I kind of taken a liking to playing Project M and
mm,
Melee and Ultimate. So I'm like, I have those. I don't particularly need to play Smash Brothers Brawl online, at least.
but Project M's like a brawl hack, right? So it's a Wii kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So
So,
it is. It's a Wii thing. It's a mod of Super Smash Brothers Brawl that like adds some new characters, kind of brings the physics similar to Melee, but it's still like its own thing.
mhm,
And it definitely also has its own jank, but its own jank makes it really fun to play.
I see. But wouldn't that
So
have its own kind of like online thing where you'd need that because that's how you play against other people playing that specifically, right?
I think so. I think there actually is not an online for
Oh,
it,
is
as
there
far
not?
as I
Okay.
know. No.
I see.
Um,
Because a lot of the big Mario Kart hacks will have
yeah, some of
some
the Mario
way
Kart
to do
hacks
that.
do have it, and I think you would have to patch for that, but I've
Okay.
not tried them. That being said, I do believe someone is working on adding rollback netcode to Brawl and in turn Project M or Project Plus now, I'm sorry, is what it's currently at. So that'll probably have to be done through emulation. But I am looking forward to hearing more news on that because if I can play Project Plus with rollback with people, I would absolutely be on that a lot more.
Hmm.
As it is, I've just got a small group of friends from my community college that we like to get together every now and then and play Project Plus and other Smash games.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm not. Again, there's a lot of things I'm not too familiar with, so like I don't know what my local Smash scene's like. I've never been terribly into it, except when my high school had a little tournament, and I that was when Smash 4 was big. So I distinctly remember during this tournament, I just joined it for fun, but um, that my controller was my 3DS because they had it where you could use your 3DS as a controller for the
Yep,
Wii U version.
yep.
So
We
that was
actually
a terrible idea.
we had a few 3DS players in our local community as well that would play Smash 4 with their 3DS as a controller. So we've had that.
Hmm.
I did GameCube for the longest time. Actually, when I was playing Brawl for a while, I would use Wii Remote and Nunchuck, and then
Oh
eventually kind
wow.
of moved back to GameCube after getting into Project M and Project Plus because it just felt easier to work with than Wii Remote and Nunchuck, especially for a game that was trying to model itself after Melee. Just only having one control stick and then trying to actually do tech was really difficult. So I was like, no, I'm gonna go back to playing on with GameCube controller and just kind of stuck with it after that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Not to
I am.
mention when I
Yeah,
oh go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I was sideways a Wiimote, but I also was a filthy casual, so
And you know what? There was nothing wrong with that.
hell yeah. But
Because
yeah, I don't know about
I used
competitive
to try
brawl
that
too much.
too, just for fun.
Yeah, I don't know about competitive brawl too much. I know people complain a lot about the tripping mechanic, and that's about the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah, and so one of my local friends actually also likes to do competitive brawl, and he said that like honestly, the tripping hasn't been too much of an issue, mainly because a lot of people tend to play like an aerial game, especially since a lot of people are playing as Meta Knight. So they haven't really had to worry about that much. And then, you know, if you're getting punished for tripping, we're probably not playing super well anyway,
I
which
see.
is kind of wild to think about, really.
Hmm. Yeah, I've definitely seen some high level melee stuff because everyone has, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
when it comes to the other games, I haven't really. I don't know too much about the competitive side of things, so.
Yeah, no, Melee and Ultimate are definitely like the big ones, and they definitely like watching them, like you definitely feel a little bit different about it. I like Melee's movement and tech, but I like Ultimate's character variety. Like you just
Hmm.
see like a higher variety of characters, whereas Melee it's usually like the same, I don't know, 3 to 5 characters all the time because those are like the high level players.
Yeah, that's right. It's
You
actually
know,
kind of interesting that there is variety, at least a little bit though, still,
oh
because
yeah,
you're obviously gonna choose the characters that are the best if you're like a high level competitive, but you
exactly.
you
I mean, yeah,
see
you'll
see
always see like
variety.
a lot of Fox, Falco. You know, you'll see Sheik a lot.
Hmm.
But then you'll run into the Captain Falcon. You got Hungry Box with his Jigglypuff, which like what this guy's like winning with Jigglypuff, and then you realize like what he does, and like oh that's why his Jigglypuff is so good. And then you'll find like people playing Peach. I fell in love with watching Bizarro Flame play Ganondorf back when he was actively playing, and actually like kind of took him as an inspiration as a Ganondorf player myself with Project Plus and Melee. So like I'm a Ganondorf main in that. Funny enough, but I'll still like in Ultimate I'll just run Samus in the suit because she actually feels somewhat viable. for Smash Brothers Ultimate, and she's quite fun to play.
Well, sticking with the theme, I guess.
To an extent.
It makes sense.
I mean, I was also a big like Legend of Zelda fan before I got super into Metroid, so it kind of sticks with that. Like, yeah, I'm Metroid, Zelda, some Mega
Mhm,
Man. It all just kind of runs together in ways.
mhm. I mean, it's nice when your username uh imitates like your what you do
Hmm.
because mine does not. And it gets questioned many times, but
Well, we also back in the early days there was a another runner by the name of Kirby Master
yes.
who was also like a high level like GBA Metroid player. So when I started coming into the community because of Kirby Master, people would be asking me, "Oh, you're Metroid Master, so that means you run Kirby games, right?" And I'm like, "No,
uh
I run Metroid games."
I see the meme there though.
Yeah,
That
no,
is common.
that was a running joke for a good while, and then it actually did eventually come full circle about a year or so ago when I submitted for Speedrunner. I submitted yeah, GBA Metroids, Windjammer, stuff like that, and was also assigned a game. So I think my Windjammers run got in, so someone else had to learn Windjammers, and then I ended up getting assigned Kirby Nightmare and Dreamland with Meta Nightmare 100%.
Uh,
So now I'm like, oh, well, now the meme has come full circle. I now run a Kirby game.
so speed remiser, you said?
So yeah, Speedrunner was a charity marathon where the game that you submit is not the game that you run.
Yeah, it goes on like a wheel and then some other person gets it or whatever.
Yep, it's
Okay.
basically a speedrun randomizer, but in a marathon form.
That
So a
that's
bunch of
very
people
unique.
submitted games. Yeah, yeah,
I
no,
haven't heard of something like that.
it was really fun. They've actually done a couple of iterations so far. I believe they actually recently put out their games list for Speedrunner 5. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it because I missed out on submissions. But I ended up running Nightmare in Dreamland for Speedrunner 3, and it ended up being like an absolute blast. And the runner who submitted it was my commentator, and
Mhm.
I was commentary for the Windjammers run.
Oh, so they make the commentator the person that actually submitted it. That's
Yeah,
very cool, actually.
it's very fun. So would highly recommend when they bring submissions out for it. Definitely give it a go. It's been very fun. I did try to get. They had a slots where they were trying to get people who were completely new to speedrunning to try to learn a game. So what it was is they would pull the games list. They would divvy out who had to run what game, and then you had 3 months to learn the run and get times going, and then you ran the game in the marathon setting
Hmm.
after that 3 month time period was up. It was an absolute blast.
Yeah, it's nice to hear when a lot of speedrunning marathons each have their own unique twist on the formula
Hmm.
because that's a super cool idea and I haven't heard of it like but I'd be interested in like watching it at the very least. Like
Oh yeah.
does it have
No,
like its own channel or is it someone that
um,
hosts it?
I believe it does have its own its own Twitch channel. I know there's a Discord for it that I can link in the chat if you would like.
Sure.
Of course, I got to find it because I'm in way too many
Yeah, I mean
Discords now.
yeah, I think I'm at the cap myself and I'm not getting nitro just to get more. Not worth my money.
Absolutely. As soon as I can find it, though, I can absolutely post it in the Discord.
But
But
yeah.
otherwise, yeah. So that the meme just kind of came full circle, and
Mhm.
just kind of fun how all of that ended up working out. Ah, here we go. We have the Speedrunner Discord. So I'm gonna go ahead and post that in the Twitch chat here.
Sure. But yeah,
All
super
right.
cool twist on the marathon formula, I think. So
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, for a while that was a thing. And I think Kirby Master has also like moved into some other games too. Like he does a good bit of Sonic and Fire Emblem speedruns as well.
mm-hmm. Yeah. It was Fire Emblem like the run before mine at GDQ, I think, or
I believe so. Should have
before my interview or
been
something.
Awakening, I want to say, or something like that.
I don't know, Fire Emblem, just whatever game, whatever,
Whatever we had. And then
whatever it was.
oh, that's right. Y'all ran Lost Levels,
Yes.
which I believe you won that one just barely.
I I did do that. It's true.
Yeah, that or maybe it was a little further than I thought. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to like completely watch the
it
whole
was
thing.
pretty close. I mean, I made it nice by like making a minute mistake to make things even again, but you know,
It'll happen.
that's how it goes. But no, that was a really good showcase of that game. So
It was. It was rather fun to watch. Unfortunately, I was not in the stream room during that run. I would think I was in the practice room.
well, at least they have they had the big projector. I loved that they had that just
Oh yeah, no, it was
right
super
there
nice to have that in there.
because I remember specifically from HDQ, they just like put it in the corner of the practice room, and it was kind of there was like a pillar next to it. It was hard to see.
Yeah,
So it was,
you couldn't see it when you wanted to just look up from what you were doing and see
yes.
what was going on.
So yeah, that was a super nice thing to have there. I'm glad they had that all set up.
Oh, absolutely, and they've definitely made a lot of improvements between AGDQ 2024 and SGDQ 2023. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they're able to keep those improvements coming because it definitely felt like since the pandemic, like AGDQ 2024 was that kind of like, oh, we're back in full
We are so
moment.
back.
We are so back.
Yeah. It was it definitely felt a lot uh like kind of like it used to beforehand. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously
And,
everything's changed so because of it, so
right.
it's never going to be quite the same, but
Right, and SGDQ 2023 was still a fun time. I mean,
yeah, it was pretty good.
I got to do my first GDQ run. Like, of course, it was fun,
Yeah,
but also like just
that's
going out to like a city and state that I'd never been to before was like getting to explore Minneapolis while also this cool charity events going on was absolutely amazing. Other than having to get used to dropping back an hour.
I
I
see.
remember, yeah, no, because I'm on Eastern time zone and SGDQ's on Central, so I had a couple times, especially early on, where I was sitting here like, it's only like 8, 9 o'clock. Why am I so tired? Then I realized, oh, because it's like 10 o'clock back at home. So never thought I would have had to deal with jet lag like that before, but ended up happening, which you would think with daylight savings that I would be used to that, but no.
Yeah, well, uh HDQ is I'm in Central, so HDQ is my like I don't have to worry about time zones changing, so
Right.
that's nice for me.
Yeah,
Um
whereas AGDQ, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna zip a couple states up north and see how that works out.
yeah, it was a pretty good location. Other than the weather.
Right,
Oh
right.
good god.
Yeah, thank God it wasn't like that in Virginia though, because Virginia does not know how to deal with snow like
Hmm.
Pennsylvania does. That
I
and
don't
most of that snow was actually like powder and it was walkable.
hmm.
Down here, it's just ice all over the place.
Hmm. Yeah,
If we actually get snow.
I don't think there was a single moment it wasn't below freezing that entire
No,
week.
yeah, it was extremely cold like that entire week.
And I hate cold, so I was having a time, but
Yeah, that's understandable.
But
I
you
was
know,
just like, okay, I got to throw my one snowball. I'm done. I'm staying in as much as I can.
yeah. Well, and you had to walk a bit of a ways to get to something. You can just go like across the street. So it had to be like
Yeah.
a block and a half or something. But
Yeah, no, a lot of the places to eat and stuff were really close, so it was at least a little bit more bearable.
yeah, it wasn't like super far, but it wasn't,
Yeah,
again, it wasn't across the street, which sometimes it is. So
right. Well, SGDQ had some stuff that was pretty close to it too,
yeah.
so that was nice.
Well, actually, well, at least last
It's
year where they moved down back kind of more downtown. That's nice because all of their downtown buildings are connected by skywalks. So you never have
right,
to step foot outside if you don't want to. But we
which
happen
is
to be in the summer where the temperature's fine.
right, and it was weird because a lot of the skywalks were closed
Oh
last
yeah,
year,
that
which was
yeah, they close it I think on weekends or something.
yeah, it was
Because it's
really
supposed to be
weird.
mainly for like work people to get, to and
Gotcha,
from.
gotcha. Yeah, it was really weird. Just like, oh well, we can't really take the skywalk because they're closed, but it was like still fairly warm, so walking around the places was
Hmm.
not an issue. And then getting to check out PV Plaza was really neat because like I had a couple mornings where I would just be like sitting out by that big like reflecting pool in PV Plaza, just like watching people while I'm eating my breakfast. It was really nice.
Yeah, that's a really good location, and I'm sure Pittsburgh would have been very nice if it wasn't 10 degrees, but
Right. And
what can you
snow
do?
all over the place.
What an adventure. but
Indeed.
but good event. GDQ
Absolutely.
usually has good events. So,
Yeah, and absolutely fun. That and getting to meet all the people that I follow from like all the different communities, especially those who are coming from across the pond. It was fantastic to get to meet like Flying Fox. Let's see, hanging out with Draco Dan is always a blast. Getting to see him like almost every GDQ where he comes out from UK is pretty nice. Also getting to hang out with like Bobby and all of them. Like that's the few times that I just get to see them and hang out.
hmm uh trying to think of other things I could ask, I guess.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I don't know, that's the problem. uh,
Oh, let's see. We've gone through the speedrunning history. We've gone through some of the marathons that I've run in. I've talked about a couple of the games that I've run.
yeah, I mean, you could go through everything if you want.
I mean, I do have a few from the old days. I did do Sonic Adventure 2 a
Oh.
little bit and might come back to that at some point or another. I used to have a record in X-Men Arcade for the 6-player co-op. Unfortunately, one of my old team members from then is no longer able to submit, so I have to find a whole new team. But I
Hmm.
believe Jake Rock, L Rock, and I were trying to work something out and find some people for that. I also ran a little bit of Diddy Kong Racing. I used to do
Oh.
Ocarina of Time. One of these days, I'll probably get back into running like Mega Man 7 and Mega Man 9 because I feel like I can improve those times at some point or another. And I know Slurpee Ninja was putting me through some of the paces at AGDQ. Unfortunately, just late at night, so I wasn't quite fully awake for all of it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's definitely a few things in some other games that I would love to like sit down and learn the runs for. So soon enough.
Hmm. Yeah, are there any games you haven't touched at all but would be interested in?
Ooh, that's a tough one,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, it is tough when there's so much you want to go back to, but
Right. Oh, I
yeah.
did at one point I had started learning Mega Man 03, but it's hard. Like the game is like already kind of difficult even casually. As a speed run, it's a whole another level of difficulty.
Hmm.
But it's also an Inti-Creates game and well, much like Mega Man 9, it is difficult because it's Inti-Creates.
Yeah.
But it is still quite fun. I also wanted to sit down and I never actually got a full like timed run for it, but Castlevania Symphony of the Night, I would love to sit down and get a run in for as well.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, the movement tech for it is rather interesting, and then there's also plenty of fun out of bounds stuff that you can do.
Yeah.
Probably another one I wouldn't mind learning sometime would be Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. But again, they kind of fit into that like Metroid-ish category.
Mhm. Metroidvania. The
Yeah,
the Vania part.
pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, Castlevania games are interesting sometimes. I'm mostly familiar with, again, the NES kind of stuff, but
Right.
like Castlevania 1's is like crazy optimized. And then I don't know
And it's
what's going
even
on.
got some like interesting tech with the critical hit stuff and all
Mhm.
that. It's always quite a time.
I don't even know how the scroll glitch works or whatever.
Beats me. I have
Yeah, no, like
I have yet to beat any of the NES Castlevania games. I've done Super Castlevania 4 and Rondo of Blood, and then most of like the Metroidvania style Castlevania games, but have not beaten any of the classic ones yet, and I need to fix that.
hmm. Yeah, I should do that too, honestly. Although I've never really even played any Metroid game or Castlevania. Neither. I should do both.
Absolutely, they are very much worth playing. Although NES Metroid, you could probably skip in favor of like Zero Mission, since Zero Mission is kind of a remake of NES Metroid, but you get a lot more quality of life
Nah,
in
I have to beat Metroid NES.
Zero Mission. I mean, absolutely go for it.
I'm an NES guy. It'd have to be done if I did it. So, just how it is.
Uh, Absolutely go for it then.
But my backlog
Definitely look up a map.
is, well, yeah. My backlog is forever growing, and I don't think we'll ever actually be chipped away at. Who knows? It's hard to find the time to do stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I totally feel that.
But
It gets hard for
yeah,
me to do that as well.
yep, lots of games and a bit of time, but it definitely is not infinite, and there's other things to do too.
Oh
The
yeah, so
unfortunate fact of life.
absolutely. Now lately, outside of the whole Genshin Impact thing, I've actually been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and
Oh yeah, that is a
Persona
good one.
3 Reload. So those have been a lot of fun. And then I started a Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess randomizer with a friend of mine. So we're kind of slowly but surely working our way through that. And I've never done a randomizer for Twilight Princess before, so it's a lot of like double checking the tracker and what is where, and then having to Google search like, wait, where is this chest supposed to be at? I have no idea because I never 100% of the game, and even my friend who like has 100% of the game and says that he knows it like the back of his hand. He's like, wait a minute, it's where? And I'm like, this is what it's describing, and we just have to Google it. And he's like, oh, that. Oh, now I see it.
Yeah.
So
Uh, it sounds like you've done a lot of randomizers, or have you?
yeah, I've been jumping on a lot of those lately, especially when it
Awesome.
comes to like the Legend of Zelda ones. Mainly because like I don't really speedrun Ocarina of Time much anymore, but the randomizers kind of gives me that like, okay, this feels like a fresh playthrough. You know, I can
Mhm.
kind of sit there, basically play a new game almost every time, use some of the speedrunning tech that I know, and just have fun with it. Also, it makes for with certain versions of it, it makes for very fun like co-op experiences, especially with friends. So
Yeah,
doing
I know Zelda games usually make the better randomizers. Again, it's not a thing I'm terribly knowledgeable of, but
it's just like doing randomizers and multi-worlds in general, especially like being able to
multi
do multi-worlds with friends is a lot of fun.
So, define multi-world.
So a multi-world is when you have multiple players, they're playing a randomized game, they're playing their own like set game, but all of the games are connected to each other, and then the items in each game are shuffled around across each other's games. So
Hmm.
if you pick up an item that belongs to someone else's game, it sends that item over to them and then they have access to it. So for example, like say I'm playing Ocarina of Time, or my friend and I are playing Ocarina of Time, and I find like my friend's hook shot. As soon as I pick it up, it sends that hook shot over to them, and then now they can use their hook shot and vice versa. So you have to all work together to help each other complete their respective games.
So you got to find the items for the other people, not just
Yep.
yourself. I see.
Yep.
That's
So can be stuff for yourself, can be stuff for your friends. It makes for a very fun time.
and I mean that's unique.
It
Um,
is. It's a lot of fun, and there's various like ways to do multi worlds. You have Archipelago, which supports a wide variety of games. Um, I think it actually does have like NES Metroid and like Zelda One as part of their supported games.
hmm,
And then you have the other big one that I've been getting into is Randovania, which supports Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, Metroid Dread. I believe they just got support for AM2R, and I think Cave Story is also supported as a multi world. And then they are working on a Metroid Fusion randomizer for it as well.
hmm, yeah, I'm a platformer guy, so this is
Well, the
I'm
fun
learning about the
thing.
wondrous world of other genres.
So you might find interesting, Archipelago does support the Super Mario World and Super Mario 64 randomizers. And
Interesting.
yeah, multi worlds for those are quite interesting because
How
super
like the switches? Like
so Mario, yeah, so even just like basic movement functions like running or spin jumping can be locked in the multi world randomizer.
how does that work? Where do you
It's an
find the
interesting.
basic moves?
Apparently, they're part of like level checks, or if you're on the multi world, it could be in someone else's game. Like I believe with Mario World, if you're locking moves, all you can do is walk and jump, and so you have to like
Hmm.
find the other basic moves, like the spin jump or like the run button. Even it's interesting.
Well,
And I'm not saying this from my own experience. I've been in a multi world where someone else was playing Super Mario World, and it was like the most hilarious thing. Like even swimming can be locked.
but, but okay,
So like you hit your jump button and you just don't gain height.
sure.
It's
Okay.
it's absolutely wild.
I don't know how that could work, but
Um
sure.
yeah, no, I've had to I think I've actually found some of his abilities like in my own game while I'm playing I think I was playing Super Metroid at the time. So I had to go like find some of his abilities just to get him to be able to progress.
Oh, this can go across multiple different games?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the thing with the multi-world. So like with Archipelago, I could be playing Zelda Ocarina of Time or Super Metroid, and someone could be playing Super Mario World, and they could find like my plasma beam on one of their levels. As soon as they find it, it gets sent over to me, and I could
Oh,
find like
okay.
their spin jump in my like Bryn Star and send it to them.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought you all had to be playing the same game, just your own game. I didn't know if you.
Um,
Wow.
in some cases you can, and in some cases, in the case of like Archipelago, like I've got their list of supported games here. I'll send it to you. It's
It's very interesting.
it is very interesting. Some of these games I also wonder like how would a randomizer work for these? Because you've got like Donkey Kong Country. Well, actually, Donkey Kong Country 3 does kind of work as a randomizer because there's some items that you pick up in like the overworld map, and there's stuff that you can collect. But like StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty, what? How does a randomizer work for an RTS game, you know?
No,
Um
definitely not knowledgeable about that.
exactly. I'm just like I'm not sure how this would work, but like it does support a good few like NES games, Super Nintendo games, Nintendo 64, PC. Like there's all sorts of wild games that you will just support this randomizer format, and you can do multi worlds with other people on it. It's
Hmm.
quite fun.
That's wow. I guess I just wasn't aware that something like that existed where it could be like different games and you can find,
Hmm.
something in a Zelda game for a Metroid game. I don't know. That's just blowing my mind a little bit, I guess.
Right. No, they don't unfortunately have like the custom like sprites and stuff to like show exactly what you're picking up. It's usually just like a common image, and it'll like there's a little thing it'll tell you like what you found and what you sent to someone. So
Mm-hmm. I
it's
imagine it'd be too complicated to make custom stuff for every game so it all works with each. Seems like too much work.
yeah, pretty much. It would be a little bit of a pain in the butt to have sprites for all the games that you would support, but it is something that could work. So
Oh, that's good. Um,
right.
uh, anything else? I guess. I don't know.
Uh,
Brain not
unfortunately,
working today.
yeah, I can't think of much else as well. Plus, unfortunately, my time is starting to run a little bit short.
Yeah, I also figured. I knew time was a little limited because of work, so I just wanted to make sure that everything you're happy with everything we covered. Don't want to miss
Yeah,
anything. So
I think we've covered like a good bit, and I can always say, let you know if there's more fun stuff to share. So maybe hopefully we can see you in some of these other marathons, and trying out these all sorts of wacky ways to play video games with us.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna look more into some things because there's a lot I don't know out there.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm
With
always happy to help if
random
you need
retro
help
stuff.
setting stuff up or getting something working. Always
Yeah.
happy to help.
But yeah. Um Also I'm sure some people saw the amazing 4-player one controller Mario 64 stuff from AGDQ. That footage comes from you partially.
Some of it does. I was recording a good bit of it on my phone, and I believe I did upload everything that I had to Twitter for y'all. So that should be on my Twitter account. It would be at MetroidMaster X6 on Twitter, and then you can find me on Twitch as MetroidMaster. And yeah, I just I do my speed runs and little bits of randomizer shenanigans.
What more could you ask for, right?
Right. And
Exactly.
hopefully soon we might be seeing some more X-Men speed runs for those who saw the X-Men arcade run from Summer Games Done Quick. Maybe we'll be seeing some more Colossus roaring.
If you know, you know.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for being on, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you so
No,
much for having me.
no problem. I know. I mean, thank you for coming on. I know it was a bit of a short notice because sometimes things don't work out. So with people, so you got to get a last minute kind of thing going on. So I
I'm just happy
appreciate
you're
anyone
willing to
that's able
have
to
me.
do that on a short notice. So,
Oh, absolutely.
but yeah, again, thanks everyone for watching. Follow all the things. You know what to do. You know where to find it. Hopefully. And yeah, uh, see you next week. Take care. Bye.
See you next mission.
True. That's a good send off. Okay. Bye bye.